Greetings, Fabulites. How are you today? I got a couple questions for you. I'm frantic. I'm supposed to be upstairs getting ready for a show. Once again, I'm out here recording a video. But let me just hurry up. And I got a whole bunch of notes. But I got my questions. What opens with baby boy Sean Campbell being bussed through "What about Joey?" protests to his white school after kissing his mom goodbye reluctantly? And what closes, roughly, with Ash at home, listening to a message from Preston asking her, "Are you okay? I know it's been rough for you down there, and it's pretty bad down here." Did you guess? Shots fired, Season 1, Episode 6, Hour 6, the fire this time? Well, if you did, you're right. And that's what I'm doing. I'm doing a review, a recap, my thoughts and ideas or whatever I can get through very, very quickly. It's probably not going to be very quick, but we's in a rush, y'all. We's in a rush. Please stick around, like, comment, and subscribe. And welcome. Welcome back. I'm Angela, and the channel is Be Fabulous You. All one word, all spelled out. Okay. So, last episode, I was not clear if, Mama, Carr had killed herself, Jesse's mom, but she did not kill herself. She's alive, just to give you an update. And, the officer who was transferred after 16 years, who was from Gate Station, who Ash went and interviewed last year, Officer Durkin, he did kill himself. He was the one who drove into the water, who I was like, who is that driving into the water? Okay, so we saw baby boy Sean on the bus. This was the first scene, and there's, he's looking at rallies outside going on, and somebody kind of reaches over to him and touches him on his shoulder and is like, this is for you, this is your fam. And throughout the episode, there are rallies going on. And throughout the episode, we see baby boy Sean appearing to be in distress. And, there's a lot of focus on him. Okay, so then the next thing we see Reverend Janae wearing a Angela Taught Me t-shirt. Is she talking about Angela Davis? That's who I'm named after, Angela Yvonne Davis. But she's having a rally in front of a mural with a Confederate flag, and we see that mural show up again. I don't know where that is exactly. A white guy throws a bottle, and the crowd kind of gathers him up a little bit. She goes to talk to him. And, says something, it's easy to throw a bottle, blah, 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 blah. We all united, whatever, I didn't take a good record of what she said, but she basically sends him on his way. He looks really, wild and crazy to me. I think that's by design because it's a TV show. So, somebody designed his costume and his look. And she says, "You can go. Ain't nobody gonna hurt you." And he goes on off, and, a couple people yell something at him, but nobody, jumps on him or kills him or anything. But he seems to be the only white person at the rally. And he throwing bottles and stuff. The next thing we have Pressed Ash, and they're at their office doing some figuration. They're figuring some stuff out. And Ash is, they make a plan that they're going to when they go to this event, Ash is going to take Cox and talk to him, and Preston is going to take Governor Emmons and talk to her. The next thing we see is Pressed Ash driving through the rally. I think Preston is about to blow the horn or something, and Ash is like, don't do that. This place is a powder keg. The next thing we have is at the Cox Prison Plantation groundbreaking. We have the governor, we have the big boss, Sheriff Platt, we have Pressed Ash, and then we see Preston is talking to the governor. I think Preston, boy, girl. So Preston is talking to the governor, and he asks her, "Are you aware of the abuses of the community patrol program? That's the program for your top donors where they get to be volunteer auxiliary deputies." And she says, "Yeah, that's a perk." And he tells her that it's linked to Joey's death. And the governor is like, "Let me look into this." And then the governor's assistant is glaring and looking kind of weird during this scene. And then we see Ash talking to Cox, and she says, we're looking into the tours. And he says that he's proud to be a volunteer deputy. The only thing that he's sorry about is that his schedule doesn't allow him to be more involved. And she says, well, Platt didn't even mention you as an auxiliary deputy at all. And he says, well, it's been so long, since I was involved. Well, how long, she asked? 2 months. And Ash is like, well, conveniently, that means that you weren't involved with Joey being killed. Okay, so then the next scene, we're in Platt's office, and Platt tells Breland that Durkin killed himself, that he drove his car into the lake. And then he tells him, now act surprised. And he's walking out. And I'm like, now act surprised to find out that the man killed himself. But no, the next scene we see is they're having a surprise party for his 20 years as being a cop. Or, I guess a surprise party because he was supposed to act surprised. So it kind of creates this interesting little dramatic moment to me. So during the party, it's a quick thing. Oh, surprise! Ha 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 ha! And then Jesse's mom crashes the party, and she confronts Black Officer Beck, and she says she just wants to look him in his eyes, look him in his face, and she has some questions to ask him. Some questions she not gonna ask him because she know he gonna lie, but she does want to know, did he suffer? What were his last words? And it reminds me of how Joey's last words we've heard from this witness, the little boy on the bike with the jersey that we don't see this episode. What's his name? Corey. From Corey, that Joey's last words were begging for his mother, calling for his mom. So she asked again, did my son suffer? What were his last words? And did you tell him that you were sorry? And Beck says, he did not suffer. And the mom says to him, well, I hope you do, with all my heart, every day of your life. I'm like, Dad, that's intense. I thought it was intense. I was like, ooh. Okay, so then we see the governor in her office, and she is questioning Big Boss Platt about this auxiliary deputy program and the connection to Joey's death. And Platt tells her that he is offended. And he says there would be no Department of Justice here if you would have listened to me and let my office handle this. And the governor says, I don't trust your leadership. Deputy Beck is still a member of your department. That's Black Officer Beck. Okay, so then the next scene, we see baby boy Sean in the bathroom at school. He brushes by 2 boys who are like, all of this commotion going on is about your brother. You're like a celebrity. I didn't know if it was going to be a fight or what, but he just brushes on past them. Okay, then we have a scene where Black Officer Beck is at work, and is it Platt? I think Platt comes in and asks him if he heard about Durkin in terms of his suicide, and talks about Durkin's kind of a key word for Durkin being integrity. That was really important, for Durkin. That was his thing. And he basically tells him, you're compromising the integrity of this department. You're bringing too much attention here. And he basically tells him that you are now on paid administrative leave. Give me your gun and your badge now. And then we have, what's going on? Then we have Preston and the governor's assistant. Oh, I was going to bring it in when I came in. The nuns are getting ready for Sister Act. If you're in Detroit this weekend at the Retford Theater, retfordtheater.com. This is our last weekend of a 3-weekend run. And this is our first time ever in 60 years as Park Players performing outside of the Rosedale Park Community House, which is like some Detroit stuff. But if you're in the Detroit area, come on by the Retford Theater. I think for like $20 you get unlimited wine and the best seating, and then for $15 you get regular seating. Whatever you pay, it's a great, excellent, wonderful show. Excellent music, fun time is gonna be had by all. Okay, so then we see Preston and the governor's assistant outside. She is mad, and she like, you didn't give me a heads up. How did you know about the donor connection to the auxiliary deputy program? He like, I happened to see it on your computer when I sit down. And she's basically like, thief, you're a thief, and I no longer appreciate you. Okay, then we're at the sheriff's station, and Black Officer Beck is leaving. And we see Prest Ash entering. And Preston says, I need to talk to you off the record. That's what he says to Beck. And Beck is like, not here. And then Platt comes and he shows Prest Ash Ash a witness who says that he worked for Joey Campbell and that his job working for Joey Campbell was selling drugs and that he sold drugs to Jesse Carr. So this mystery of how these strains of marijuana were the same is solved. And that's why, that's why it's the same weed. So there's no cover up, says Platt. And then Preston says, well, why was Cox not on your auxiliary deputy list? And then Platt says, you are on another wild goose chase. I'm going to talk to your white male boss. These aren't exact quotes, y'all. This is my interpretation of it. And then we see Preston giving Ash a pep talk for her 5:30 custody hearing. So she's on her way to her custody hearing. The next scene we see wifey Carrie Beck, and she's at the Beck home. And then we see a scene, we pan to Officer Beck sitting at the table. He drinking. Y'all, does he have 2 bottles? He's like seriously drinking. And she says, we don't drink in front of the boys. And he's like, says Carrie. And then Officer Beck says, the boys are napping. And she's like, you need to get help. You need to talk to a counselor or something. Drinking doesn't help. And then he's saved by the bell. The doorbell rings. The wife goes to open the door. It's Preston. She's hostile. I know who you are, and she don't like him. And she comes back. They come back. Preston is, standing there, sitting down or whatever. And then she's standing there with her arms balled up, Miss Carrier. She mad. She hostile. And her husband asks for privacy. And she's like, and then she leaves. And Preston is basically like, I only want the truth. And, what about your conscience? And Beck is like, oh, they took that a long time ago. Dang, that's a strong statement, I think. And then Preston tells him, take it back. Tell me about Joey. Tell me about the tours. Who was there that night? Was Durkin there? Was Cox there? Was Breland there? Who shot Joey? And then Beck is like, I know my color. The uniform doesn't protect me like it protects these white boys. I'm just supposed to take it, no matter how much it hurts. And then finally, when you give up and stand up and be a man, finally, something happens. I don't know. My notes must be jacked up because, And then Beck says, were you joking or confessing when you said you have a license to kill white folks? And then Beck says to him, get out of my house. And that's the end of that scene. We see Ash arriving to visit Kai. She's real tense. She ain't friendly at all. She ain't got no smiles. And she protests a surprise court-appointed supervised visit and observation at the judge's recommendation. And she's real, this is some bull. I'm not in favor of this. I don't need no observation or no supervision to visit with my child. And then Kai enters the room and she lights up. She's smiling. She's friendly. And we see that Kai and Ash, which we already know, are tightly bonded. But I see it through the social worker's eyes. The next scene, we see a Joey rally by that same mural with the Confederate flag. The governor then enters a room with a wall of monitors, and it's various shots or probably different channels showing the protest with 6 folks, including the mayor and Cox. And she's announcing, I'm going to have a press conference. And they basically it's too late. One person is very vocal, but we assume they speak for everyone. And they're like, are you watching the news? These thugs are about to burn down the city. And she says, protest is allowed. After 24 hours from now, this will be over. And then my boy Cox, not my boy, but, Mr. Cox, the cocksucker, says, it would be a fiduciary nightmare if protests were to interfere with Sunday night football. My boy is sitting in an armored prison vehicle, and the governor is like, I am not declaring war on my citizens. And then someone said, Cox says, your citizens have already declared war on you. And that's the end of that scene. Then we're at Chosen House. Reverend Janae is talking. We mad. We're hurting. Nobody cares or hears. We're voiceless. It's, a sermon. And it overlays a montage. And that montage, we see militarized cops marching in. We see the governor and the other powers talking. We see Mama Carr watching the news. We see Mama Campbell at Chosen House, and she's tearing up. She's wiping a couple tears away. We see cop cars on the move. We see baby boy Sean Campbell in the houses area. He's running and he's crying in pain in front of the Joey mural. We see the black restaurateur that we met in a couple of episodes looking concerned. We see more cop cars on the move. Okay. We see protesters, and then we hear Reverend Janae, and I kind of tuned out what she was saying, but I tuned back in at this point, and she says that King said that a riot is the language of the unheard, and that's a prophecy. And then the governor cancels the press conference while watching the wall-to-wall news footage. And then there's an armored military tank rolling in, dripping with visored, armored cops. So that's the end of that scene. Then we're at the custody hearing with Ash. We find out that her mom left. Her dad died at 16. He was her custodial parent. She was in foster care, and she says they were a nice enough family. We know that, I found out that Ash worked at the DEA with Javier and her baby daddy. So I was like, was her other story a lie just to get the cop to confide in her? I don't know. And the dad, Javier, says that he works a stable desk job and that Ash is basically still wilding out from all of our traumas working at the DEA. She straddles two worlds, and sometimes she be a little bit too much in the wild world. And Ash says that my daughter needs me. I am her only mother, her only mama, her only reflection. Others can be nice, but they can't show her. If I'm not here for her, she might not be here for herself. And then they tell her that the judge is like, yeah, all of that's good and emotional and everything. I thought it was beautiful. But the judge says that the psychologist says that you have possible PTSD. And I'm going to review all of this, and I'll make my ruling by the end of the month. Then we see him singing at Chosen House. The service continues. The crowd has a few white faces in the mix. A woman runs in and tells Mama Campbell that baby boy Sean is out there. Mama Campbell leaves, and she passes a newsman reporting outside, and then she's followed by Pastor Janae and her security/Burgundy crew. We see masked folks, Molotov cocktails being thrown. That's what it looked like to me. I don't know. We hear yelling. We hear glasses breaking. We see a garbage can thrown through a window of the black restaurateur space while he's inside on the phone. We see cops firehousing people being stopped by Breland. We see Mama Campbell trying to find baby boy Sean Campbell. The next scene we see is Preston unsuccessfully trying to get through police line into the hood to help the restaurateur. We see baby boy Sean looking through a smoky haze of protests and the Burgundy crew. His brother on signs, then picking up a garbage can and throwing it through the police car window. He's running. Mama Campbell sees him. He's tackled. He's cuffed. He's arrested. Mama Campbell is yelling, "No, no, not my baby." That's her. Sad. Okay, then we see Ash being chastised by her boss. He like, this another Ferguson down here. You were not sent down there to dissect the race problem. It's her boss plus the Latino guy. Sheriff Plant told me that there's a witness that contradicts you combining these two JCs, saying it's some connection. Your little theory. And Preston is too inexperienced to be down there. You're making it worse. You got no evidence. We got a new crew, and y'all got a week to get out. And then we see we see Javier at Ash's house. And Ash is like, we're both reckless, but I wouldn't betray you in court. And then Ash and Javier have sex, and she tells him to drop the custody case. She's asking him, and he's like, no. And then she reveals the recording of the encounter, the sexual encounter they just had. And she says, drop the case if you want to save your relationship with Paula. And is that clear? And he's like, the only thing that's clear, Javier says to Ash, is that you're unfit to be a mom. And then we're at Cox Group Financial. Preston is there. And Cox is telling Preston, your talk when you got to town was basically a bunch of slick bull. Lies, Northerners intruding in our business. And then Preston asked him, what's your theory on Durkin's suicide? And I don't know. Preston says, you think, Cox is like, you think I killed Joey? No. Pursue the folks responsible for the violence and property destruction over the last 24 hours. And then Preston says, I am. And then we're on the street. And Mama Campbell is sitting there. Preston sees her. They got my boy, she tells him when he asks, and they won't let me see him. And Preston says, let me help you. And she like, you ain't done enough? We can't even get justice from ourselves. And then we're in Breland's office. Preston is advocating for Sean Preston, saying he's a good kid. And the guy is like, I thought he was good, Breland says, until he destroyed a police car. He says, 1 year on the job and you think you can save the world. And then Preston asks him, well, how long does it take to become jaded? And then we see a montage. This is like the closing montage of Beck at the Jesse Memorial. Something on the street, like a memorial to Jesse, the white JC. Then we see Ash at home listening to the Preston's voicemail message saying, you okay? Pretty bad down here. Then we see Preston looking out the window. Y'all, that's what I got. That was what was it? Shots Fired. Whatever episode it was. Thank you for watching, commenting, subscribing. Have a fabulous, wonderful day. Fabulite. Be you. Be fabulous. Be fabulous you. Mwah. Bye.